Good morning. It's time again for the pre-market PulseScan with yours truly, Dex the Algo Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from PulseWaveTrading.com, home of the world famous PulseWave price trigger reports that we put right in your hand each and every trading day. Hopefully, everyone had a good night's sleep and you're ready this morning to get it cracking. I must tell you, it has been a wild ride in the futures and the overnight market. The market started off like it wanted to continue yesterday's rally. Then all of a sudden, the market crashed hard, then reversed itself, and is now moving in the opposite direction. So the market has been just gyrating in these overnight markets, but now we're up as much as we were down after we were up initially. So just a lot of volatility coming in right now at the moment. Some of that has been because of all, this is still a media driven market. You got to understand that. Excuse me. All the news that comes out, depending on the nature of the news, it is going to be a potentially market moving event. So we always have to keep that in the back of our mind. Let's get into these markets. I should be able to pull up everything here. Just bear with me for a moment. All right, here we go. Overnight markets. What up, everybody in the live chat? What up, Sling, John, Mike? So we got Single Cell, we got Nathan, we got Mick. What up? Everybody, do me a favor, smash that like button for me. All right, seems that I have the hiccups. Give me a second. All right, hopefully that helps. All right, so starting with the Dow futures, it's up 258 points at 26,209. NASDAQ 100 is up 67 at 10,191 and 3/4. E-mini S&P 500 up 28 points at 3138 and 3/4. The Russell My Hustle is up 18.2 points at 1452, of which I'm trying to hold on to a long position here. We'll see how far we can get today on this bucking Bronco. Excuse me. The Bitcoin Futures Composite Index is up $55, trading at 96.40. Nat gas is off 2 cents at $1.64. Crude oil is trading at $41 a barrel, up 27 cents. We got the long bond down 17 seconds, trading at 176 and 30 seconds. We have gold futures up $8.60 at 17.75 even. Silver is trading at $18.06 an ounce, up 15 cents there. Taking a look now at the U.S. dollar, it's down a whopping 48 pips, trading at 96.55. Looks like the dollar is starting to move deeper into the bear market territory, as I showed you in last night's video. Taking a look now at the euro dollar, it's up a whopping 71 pips, trading at 113.53. The pound sterling is up 22 pips at 125 even. Aussie is trading at 69.70 right now, and it is up 51 pips. Canadian dollar down 30 pips at 134.94. Euro yen up 34 pips at 120.68. Dollar yen down 37 at 106.52. Kiwi is up 37 pips at 65.19. Soybeans down 2.25 points at 8.74 even. Corn down 3.5 at 3.24 3/4. And wheat down 1.5 at 4.83 half. All right, and that is our overnight markets. Let's take a look at the market news. Got got going on today and see what's good there. Give me just a second, move some things around here. All right, here we go. President Donald Trump signed a proclamation on Monday halting a variety of immigration visas. It temporarily suspends the H-1B, H-2B, H-4, J-1, and L-1 visas, affecting the tech industry, students, au pairs, among others. Amazon, Google, Twitter, and other major tech companies are criticizing Trump's move to halt certain immigration visas. The company said it will make American firms less competitive and less diverse. Well, you know, excuse me, I don't feel sorry for the tech companies. I'll tell you why. Because other countries put their citizens first. If you want to go and open up business in most foreign countries, they require that you employ their citizens. As a matter of fact, in some cases, they even demand that you put one of their citizens in a management position. And in some extreme cases, you got to partner with them. All right. So they put their people first. But you're not going to come over here and do business and not put money back into the country. You're going to employ our people. Our people must be the majority representation at your company, period. The US ain't like that. They could care less. They're about making that money and having to pay as little as possible. And I quote one entrepreneur. He wished that he could have people work for free so that his profit margin would be 100%. Yep, I actually had people to say that. I know it sounds disgusting, doesn't it? The workman is worthy of his wage. You must pay fair wages. Apple on Monday unveiled a new processor that the company says will replace Intel chips in MacBooks, iMacs, and Mac Pros going forward. Apple's chip, called Apple Silicon, will make app architecture more consistent across Mac, iPhone, and iPads. The company said at its annual Worldwide Developers Conference, which took place virtually. Sorry, I no longer trust Apple. Apple is no longer synonymous with quality. Apple is all about making that coin. So I did not have a very good experience being a first-time Apple owner. I bought my desktop, spent a crazy amount of money on that thing. It just came out brand new, state of the art, and the thing is trash. It won't even turn on today. And of course, I'm not by myself. Everyone else who bought this product had the same problem. Apple people say, basically it's customer equipment. You must have did something, whatever. And then, of course, after some time, it came out that there was a faulty mechanism or something internally that caused it to do this, and there's no fix for it. You know what their fix is? Hey, we got a brand new computer, twice as much as the one you paid for. Here's the fix. Come get this one. No, I don't think so. You burnt me, and you only got one time to burn me. I was a new customer. I heard people talking about Apple products. I tried it, and you let me down. Excuse me. So sorry. Not going to do it again. You know what hasn't let me down? HP products. HP laptops have not let me down. For the most part, they work a lot better. For that matter, shoot, my daughter's Acer is still working. Her Acer laptop is working. And it's lasted way longer than that Apple product I bought. The Apple product I bought, I don't think even lasted a year. All right. SoftBank Vision Fund executives are set to lose out on millions after a complex investment and scandal hit German fintech Wirecard, according to the Financial Times. One of the executives behind the deal, Ashkay Nahida, lashed out at Wirecard's auditor EY on Thursday, saying the auditor had materially failed in their fiducial duties. Apple unveiled the next big update to iOS, unveiling major changes to the iPhone software. iOS 14 includes new features for the home screen, such as App Library, which will automatically organize your apps based on type and widgets that you can pin and alter in size. So they're doing all that, but your stupid machines still don't turn on. Apple's update to the Apple Watch finally brings a long-awaited sleep tracking feature, which would use motion sensors, heart rate sensors, and microphones to gather sleep data. In a noteworthy addition that brings the Apple Watch up to speed in one key area where it lagged behind rivals like Fitbit and Garmin. First of all, why do you need that? If you need a sleep study, take your behind to the sleep clinic and let them do a sleep study for you. I don't need to know all that stuff. That stuff is not going to help me, and I can't guarantee that it will be accurate because it's not designed for the medical community. Why do people want their devices to do things that they really weren't intended for? A watch is supposed to tell time accurately. That's it. You just want it to tell time. And because of where we are now, our watches are supposed to give you the day and the date as well. Time, day, and date. That's it. Anything else is ridiculous. That's why I wear watches for. And I got into the point I don't even wear a watch because my phone has the day, the date, and the time on it. That's all I need. I don't need all that. I don't need my phone to play video games. I don't need my phone to watch movies. I don't need my phone to do anything except it's a communication device. So adding social media to it, okay, fine. That's considered communications. Email, okay, fine. I got you. Live chat, okay, I got you. But anything other than communication, which is what a phone is for, communicating, I think it's a waste. Playing video games on your phone, really? I don't think so. That's what consoles are for. That's why you got a Switch. That's why you got a PlayStation. That's why you got an Xbox. You know, now you got Google Stadia, and you also got Steam to play on your PC. So why do I want to do that on a tiny screen such as my phone? I don't think so. More than 1,600 Google employees have signed a letter to Google CEO Sundar Pichai that asked the company to stop selling its technology to police forces. About 20 workers wrote the letter, which outlines ways that employees are disappointed in the company's response to the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Okay, so let me get this straight. The employees, what is up with employees becoming politicians? Since when did employees become political? Your job is to work at the company and make money. That's what you're there for. Does a company care what you feel? No. If you don't like it, then quit and they'll hire someone else. I don't understand this activism, this on-the-job activism nonsense. It's nonsense. If you don't like the way it's done, then you build your own company. Build a better mousetrap. Why stay somewhere that you don't like? You don't like the policies. Go get another job then. Start your own business. Compete against them. Why? I don't understand this. I'm going to protest. It's a job. It's not a government. It's a job. You don't get to vote. It's a job. Or better yet, if you really want to have some kind of pull, buy stock in a company. Buy enough shares where you get to have voting rights and have your, voice your opinion. Build a good organization that has controlling interest in the company, and then maybe you can do something. If you find a couple of million people that feel like you do, start an organization. The only way to really get a company to do anything is to hurt it in its pockets. A company is deaf. Corporations are deaf. All right. You have to speak to them in sign language. Okay. The sign language of a corporation is profits. When you start touching the profits of a corporation, that's when they can hear you. All this other jazz is not going to do anything. It's just politicizing. And it's ridiculous. And it's going to amount to zero. An AI tool which reconstructs pixelated pictures to look like clear images ended up making Barack Obama to look like a white man, garnering immediate criticism from algorithmic bias. Experts in machine learning speculated that the tool face depixelizer had a common problem. Its training set of images was not diverse enough. So now we're cherry picking fake news stories that don't mean anything to further push the envelope toward race war and race riots, right? And of course, white supremacy, right? See what that's a story like that is designed to do? That story is nonsense. It's not a story. It's not news. UK payments firm Checkout.com is now valued at $5.5 billion after raising $150 million of new cash. Very interesting. So 150 million now equals 5.5 billion. Really? Interesting. The firm is eyeing an IPO, according to the Financial Times. I think that valuation is pretty high. And again, how can you really value something based on future earnings if you haven't really made anything yet? I never really agreed with that concept. UK payments firm Checkout.com is now valued at 5.5 billion. Really? Okay, whatever. Microsoft is shutting down its Twitch competitor Mixer and partnering with Facebook going forward, even after spending millions on deals with top streamers. Oh, no wonder they're ditching it. Have you heard of Mixer? I never heard of Mixer until right now. So makes sense. If you haven't heard of it and they spent millions of dollars into it, yeah, maybe it's time to ditch it. Mixer has struggled to compete against Twitch. Despite a string of high-profile exclusivity deals with major streamers like Tyler, Ninja, Blevins, and Mike Shroud, Greasyak, said to be worth millions of dollars each. Interesting. I will say that pretty much the news this morning was absolutely whack. Could have done without any of that. That lets you know that when there's nothing really going on and it's really hard to make up news, people will find anything to report on. That was absolutely dreadful. A waste of time that I cannot get back. All right, moving forward, let's take a look at what else we got going on today. Well, peep this one. This is what I was telling you about at the top of the broadcast. All right. Markets immediately reverse earlier plunge after Navarro walks back China comments, okay? If ever there was evidence of the farce that is so-called market and perhaps also the Trump administration has become, it is this. Shortly after stocks and the yuan plunged, following Peter Navarro using the words, "it's over," when discussing the U.S.-China trade deal, the White House advisor rapidly backtracked, claiming in a statement that the comment was taken widely out of context. My comments have been taken wildly out of context. They had nothing at all to do with the phase one trade deal, which continues in place. I was simply speaking to the lack of trust we now have of the Chinese Communist Party after they lied about the origins of the China virus and foisted a pandemic upon the world. Well, you should have just said that. Very interesting. Additionally, Axios reports that the president's chief economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, refuted Navarro's earlier comment, stating, The U.S. remains engaged with China over the Phase 1 trade deal signed last January, and according to trade negotiator Bob Lightser, the deal is going well. President Trump has made similar comments just recently. The response was an instant spike in stocks. And just like that, everyone's stops were run. Global pandemic, buy stocks. Global economic collapse, buy stocks. U.S.-China trade deal is over. Sell, Mortimer, sell. Turn those machines back on. U.S. equity futures and offshore yuan are plunging in early Asia trading after White House trade advisor Peter Navarro said on Monday the trade deal with China is over. It's over, Navarro told Fox News in an interview when asked about the trade agreement. Reuters reports that Navarro says the turning point came when the U.S. learned about the spreading coronavirus only after a Chinese delegation had left Washington following the signing of Phase 1 deal on January the 15th. It was a time when they had already sent hundreds of thousands of people to this country to spread that virus. And it was just minutes after wheels up when that plane took off that we began to hear about this pandemic, Navarro said. These people are really playing their parts well. This is what compartmentalizing can do for you. These people actually believe what they're saying because they don't know any better. This is what they were told. This follows various threats of U.S.-China decoupling from the White House and also an increasing anti-dollar rhetoric from Chinese officials. Remember, we talked about that yesterday. All right. Opening bell for those of you that need to handle some business. All right. Trump will not be pleased if the market drop, but then again, that's Powell's problem now. The question is, why now? Which makes us wonder if the Trump administration realizes we, the people, need a non-domestic enemy to focus on and distract from the unrest at home. Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. All right, let me get some more water. Man, these hiccups, it just won't go away. Okay, here we go. All right, I did promise you part 2 from yesterday. So we're going to go ahead and knock all that out, okay? And then we'll be able to move on because things are just happening very rapidly. And we're running out of time to deal with everything, you know? So I want to really go in and deal with some of this stuff, okay? All right. Let's put on our thinking caps this morning. We're going to really, I need you to really track with me this morning. Because what is going to be covered at this point is going to be very interesting for some people. All right. So try to be as objective as possible. Okay. That's what I need you to do. All right. I need you to think about it. I want you to put on your big boy pants and your big girl pants and get ready. Get ready because we're about to dive in. Here we go. With all of the political upheavement, with all of the social unrest, with all of the questions that we have a lot of questions. And I don't think that they're being dealt with. I don't think that the powers that be even have a clue that we're really on to them. Or maybe they don't care. So I guess it's time to ask, do we resist or do we submit? That is a very good question, and it deserves a thorough response. Are you going to get down or are you going to lay down? And I'm not talking about the fake riots and protests. They're funded by wealthy people to destabilize and bring down the United States and usher in a new world order. We're not talking about that stuff. The objective of the coronavirus response and the riots is what we need to look at. During the coronavirus hoax and the George Floyd questionable false flag riots, most people kept their comments and criticisms to private conversations and internet postings. They didn't respond to forced lockdowns or violence in the streets with violence of their own, although many of them have the ability and the capacity to do so. Their restraint has been the primary force keeping whatever remains of the peace in this country. The restraint, I believe, stems from respect for that peace. People have a stake in maintaining peace and order, and a fading hope that things will eventually get back to normal instead of this new normal that we find ourselves in. People who run businesses and have jobs and own property and are engaged in honest production have a vested interest in civil order. Would you all agree with that? I think we can all agree with that. Only reluctantly will they overly oppose unjust and idiotic government measures or ramaging rioters, people rampaging all over the place and destroying more Black businesses than non-Black businesses. Even Black people are being murdered through these riots. They don't care. The riot was never for Black people. Keeping their cold rage on ice, the vast majority will be moved to action only when they feel they have no other choice. That day is coming. Winter is coming. Consider the philosophical obscenity of governments renouncing their only justified reasons for existence: protecting individual rights, particularly the foundational rights of security for people and property. The Minneapolis City Council voted to disband its police force, and other jurisdictions are considering defunding theirs. Minneapolis, Seattle abandoned police stations to mobs. No word yet if criminals are going to swear off crime and embark on productive pursuits, or whether they find such pursuits with 30 plus million unemployed people. The only certainty is that official appeasement will elicit nothing but what appeasement always elicits: contempt. It should also be noted that this really didn't make the news either. The mainstream media didn't want you to really know too much about it. But are you guys aware that in Atlanta you had police that walked off the job? Did you know that? Were you aware of that? For a nice little period of time, Atlanta has been with no police. That's crazy. Calls come pouring in and they're like, nah, we're not going to respond. We don't know what to tell you. You're on your own. And when this happens, folks, countrywide instead of just statewide, the criminals will fill the void as any remaining police retreat from law enforcement that might subject them to personal danger as well as official recrimination and punishment. As slums and ghettos become no-go areas akin to Islamic no-go districts in Europe, the criminals and their gangs will thrive while the innocent will suffer, forced to either leave or cower in place. Eventually, entire cities will be no-go. The government officials pushing to eliminate or defund police or slitting their own throats. The Praetorians of any government, the police and military, are always just as corrupt as the government of which they are a part. However, the de facto first duty of the Praetorians is to protect the government itself, and that becomes more paramount as the government becomes more corrupt. Appeasing violence by renouncing one's defenses against it guarantees more violence and the eventual elimination of the renouncers, i.e., useful idiots. After they finish using you, useful idiots, they dispose of you, useful idiots. Doesn't matter if you're a celebrity or not. It's already happening in once great cities that have been governed by statist stooges for decades. We talked about the career politicians, especially those of the Democratic persuasion. Their districts are in shambles and have been for decades. And the Republicans are not off the hook either. Some of their districts are in shambles and have been for decades. Like I told you, they're two of the same. They're on the same team. They're just wearing warm-up uniforms right now, so you can't tell the difference. But on game day, they're going to be wearing the same uniform. You're just watching them scrimmage and practice. That's all. So it appears that, oh, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. No, it's not. It's not about that at all. Their governments are crumbling and the cities are dissolving into chaotic hellholes before their eyes. Many cities are already shunned by anyone seeking freedom and its fruits, individual rights, honest production, voluntary interaction, wealth, security, and of course, peace. City and state governments and the federal government are flat broke and technically bankrupt. You heard me talk about that here on the pre-market PulseScan before. Coronavirus, totalitarianism, and the George Floyd riots have destroyed businesses, jobs, property values, the tax base, while at the same time increasing the demand for support payments, social services, and public safety. Governments are presently running deficits, and their future medical and pension liabilities are far greater than their means to pay them. Once again, what happens when your income is not enough to meet your expenses? We call that bankrupt. Okay? I told you it's going to be a bumpy ride. I hope you're sitting down, you got your coffee, because we got to get through this. We got to deal with some things. Open up your mind. Put on your thinking caps, like the teacher used to say in elementary school. Insolvency will be anti-government revolutionaries, staunchest ally, not requiring them to lift a finger, but merely watch as governments spend and borrow themselves into ruin. This will undoubtedly inflict a great deal of misery on the populace, but governments are not their people. The latter will still have productive assets and skills. The former produce nothing. Governments produce nothing, ladies and gentlemen. They've been trying to flip that for decades, where governments are involving themselves into making money, because you have the merger of corporation and government, which is fascism, and that's how we've been operating. But still, at some point, there is a breaking point. This cannot go on ad infinitum. The federal government is resorting to the tactic resorted to by bankrupt governments throughout history, debasing its own debt. As if manufacturing ever-increasing trillions of new IOUs can actually produce value. A government undermining its own debt is idiocy, on par with a government disbanding its police department. If you disband your police department, what are you going to replace it with? Because policing will always be a part of human societies. It has to be. It has to be. It's not that you're governing the people, but there has to be justice. There has to be someone that bears the sword against unrighteousness, against sin. Sin has to be stomped down. Destruction against persons and property has to be nipped in the bud. You cannot allow lawlessness. All right? A society has to be a society of laws. The laws are designed to protect the innocent and punish the guilty. If you do not have those mechanisms in place, you have anarchy. Anarchy is the absence of law and order. Okay? Oh, well, the people would just police themselves. How did that work out in the Wild West? Man did whatever was right in his own eyes. If you couldn't protect yourself and your property, then you were victimized. All right? Bandits would come into town from parts unknown, ravage the town, rape and molest the women, and burn the place down, and then keep moving on to the next town. And there was nothing you could do about it, especially if they outnumbered your citizens. If you got a small town of 150 people, but a band of bandits come in 2,000 deep and they're armed, what are you going to do? Nothing. They're going to come in and do whatever they want. They're going to say, I guess I'll take your crops. You guys some wine, and we're going to take all of that. Oh, you got animals? Yeah, we could use some of them animals, man. Yeah, to plow our fields. Yeah, we're going to take that. Oh, your wife is looking fine. I'm going to take her to be my wife. Oh, I'm going to take your daughters too. And yeah, no, we're not going to kill the men. What we're going to do, the boys and the men, we're going to take them as slaves. That's what we're going to do. They're going to take a page out of The Walking Dead, because that's what Negan would do. So you're going to take a page out of Negan's playbook, because, Negan would take your wife, right, and let you serve him. And you get to watch him be with your wife. He took all the wives for himself. That's what tyrants have done throughout history, in case you didn't know that. When there was no police, no military, then people couldn't protect their borders. They couldn't protect their properties. That's why the nobles remained nobles, because they realized, hey, I got all this land, all these possessions, all this property, and I have all these employees, but I don't have no army, so someone could just come in and take all my stuff. So they started building their own military. They had their own soldiers. They had their own security force. That's why a lot of the nobles, nobody messed with them, because you just couldn't come in and just roll up on the nobles' land and just take anything that you wanted to, not without getting your head chopped off. All right, so you gotta have policing, because if you don't, then you better have your own army, which means that every family would become a de facto government, a de facto country in and of themselves, because that's what it used to be. In the Wild Wild West, your family was a government, was a country in and of itself. You only owned the land that you were living on and working if you could protect it. That's why children and women learned how to shoot from day one, so that when the husband was out hunting or fishing, the wife could protect the home. All right? Nobody was just going to roll up in there and do what they wanted to without getting their head shot off. All right? Kids knew how to hunt and fish too. From the time that little boys could walk, they would go hunting and fishing with their daddy. All right? It's just how it was. People were self-sufficient. People weren't living off the government. All right? People were either farmers, or they were fishermen, or they were hunters, or all the above, or a mixture of some of the above. All right? And then you had people who didn't do any of that, but they were a blacksmith, or whatever. Someone had a trade, all right? That was a trade-off, or someone was a doctor in the town, or whatever. But everyone had something that they could contribute If you weren't a farmer, meaning that you're dealing with crops and or livestock, or you're hunting, or you're fishing, or you're a blacksmith, or you're a doctor, or you know how to make, the best homes for people, or whatever. All right, you had to have some kind of trade. You did something. But by default, most people were hunting and fishing because you had to feed yourself. No one else was going to feed for you. But then as time went on, the blacksmith who was making tools and weapons, he didn't have to worry about spending his day hunting and fishing. All right, because he was going to be taken care of because you paid him in food. All right, so the blacksmith, yo man, I need a new fishing rod. I need some new knives. I need some hunting bow. Oh, no problem. I got you, man. I got you. All right, here's your fish, and here's this and that. That's how that was, man. That's what people did. And then as far as being able to defend, everyone knew how to shoot. And before guns, everyone knew how to bear the sword. Everyone had a sword or a machete or a bow and arrow or a spear or something. And when it came to defend the land, they all banded together, and they were the army. All right, they would stand and fight. All right, people knew how to protect themselves, and they knew how to take care of themselves. But then, as we started having, as time went on, we started having more sophisticated governance, and we started building cities and all this other stuff. Things started changing rapidly. All right, and what like they say, the rest is history. But we've gotten away from all of that. We've gotten away from all of that to the point where most people now are employees. What are you taught to do from day one when you're in school? You're taught to follow directions. You are being trained from the time that you can talk to do what? Study hard so you can get a what? Good job. No one says from the time that you're in preschool, let's find out what you're good at, or where your gifts are and interests, so that we can steer you in that direction. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a this. I want to be a that. Okay, well, you know what? Then that's what we're going to focus on for you. Forget all that other stuff. That's a waste of time. Let's get you prepared for what you're called to do in this life. No, school is not designed for that. School is designed to make you subservient, not question authority. Do as you're told, follow instructions, follow directions, so that you can become someone's slave. So you can become a good slave. I have a degree. I have a master's. I have a doctorate. All a degree means is that you have the ability to learn. It does not mean that you are a person of high intellectual prowess. And it doesn't even guarantee that you even know what you're doing or what you're talking about. Do you know how many people have college degrees that are insane? And they have a high IQ, but they're insane. All right. So let's not get that twisted either. Some of the most brilliant people that ever lived were also insane and were sociopaths and psychopaths. So let's not get that twisted either. Pure intellect alone does not guarantee that you are a man or a woman of character and integrity, and that you have love for humanity in your heart. All right. That is not something that most people possess, unfortunately, in this day and age, because it's not taught. I told y'all it was going to be a bumpy ride. It's going to be a bumpy ride. The federal government is resorting to the tactic resorted to by bankrupt governments throughout history, debasing its own debt, as if manufacturing ever-increasing trillions of new IOUs can actually produce value. All right? A government undermining its own debt is idiocy on par with the government disbanding its police department. Historically, debasement becomes debauchery followed by a downfall. Look at the startling comparisons between the Roman Empire and the United States. There are too many similarities to count. But the one standout that brought, if you were to pick just one word to sum it all up, what brought down the Roman Empire, what's bringing down the United States, one word it can be summed up into. And that word is corruption. 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 A government that can offer the honest and the productive nothing but its own worthless promises has one foot in the grave, potential prey to anyone who can promise something better. Restoration of political, financial, and economic stability by fair means or foul. In other words, setting itself up for dictatorship. One moment. And we're back. Okay. So think about this. Keep this out. The coronavirus response so far has led to monetary debasement, right? And the George Floyd riots have clearly demonstrated to the honest and the productive that governments offer them less than nothing. For decades, they've been told they have to put up with government's protection racket. And that's really what it is, a protection racket. Taxes, coerced redistribution, funny money will keep the rabble at bay and protect whatever governments left them of their businesses, incomes, and wealth. By and large, they put up and shut up. Now, governments can't or won't protect themselves, and officials are taking the knee in hopes they'll be spared by the marauding horde. Yeah, the zombies are coming. We'll see how that works out, won't we? Many of their constituents who still have spines have gone full rooftop Korean, stocking up on guns and ammo to protect the homes and businesses governments won't. They've seen the futility of government as protection racket and of putting up and shutting up. All right. The violent horde and its rhetorical and political enablers have told a vast swath of the population that their jobs, businesses, safety, and lives do not matter, except as fodder for the violent horde. Predictably, the horde is setting up its own protection racket. Show us the money or else. That's exactly what it is. Show us the money or else. Black lives matter. Yeah, but other people's lives don't matter. People's personal property and businesses don't matter. So you're saying that you're more important than everyone else? So because Black Lives Matter, you need to destroy Black businesses. Because Black Lives Matter, you need to murder Black police officers and Black people in the street. You have the riots have killed more Black people than the George Floyd situation. The George Floyd situation was one man. These riots have killed many. The riots have destroyed many more lives than the George Floyd incident. When you destroy a person's business, when an entrepreneur risks life and everything to build a business, and then you come and destroy that business, you have destroyed that family. The riots are destroying more families than any police brutality has. If you add up every case of police brutality, add up every situation where cops have killed a Black man, whether he was armed, unarmed, innocent, or guilty, you still do not equal the lives, the Black lives specifically, that the riots have destroyed. Let's deal with that. Politicians will be writing rubber checks to propitiate the ceaseless demands for the unearned from anyone with a gripe and political clout. A figure of $14 trillion, even if it is just funny money, has been banded out as slavery reparations from people who were never slave owners to people who were never slaves. Once again, reparations to people who were never slaves by people who were never slave owners. That generation is long gone. There's no one alive today that was a slave in the 1800s. There's no one alive today that owned slaves in the 1800s. They are all gone. Everyone who was alive in 1860, in 1850, in 1840, in 1820, 1776, choose a number. Anyone who was alive and breathing air is dead today. Every man, woman, and child, even the pets, even the animals, every animal, every insect, every bird, they're dead. Every woman, every female from slavery has died. Every man, every child, every rabbit, every wolf, every bear, every butterfly, cricket, grasshopper, doesn't matter. They're all dead. They're the ones that deserve the reparation. I know what you're going to say. What about Israel for the Holocaust? All right, see, now you've opened the Pandora's box, and now you've let it out. Because that argument has been being used and propagated in this discussion of reparations, you now have to deal with the ramifications and repercussions. So let's just say that this is done, that this happens. All right. Let's look at the truth and the reality of that situation. First of all right, it is well documented that the number of Jewish people that died during the Holocaust has been wildly exaggerated. They claim 6 million when the number is closer to 2 million. And they're not really telling you the truth about that situation either. See, people like to rewrite history. They like to rewrite history. Remember the episode of Bugs Bunny when he told his nephew false history for his history test presentation? And when he went and did his presentation, when he came home from school, Bugs Bunny was like, "So, how did everything go?" And he had a big giant dunce hat on. Remember that? Because what do they say? History is written by the victors. Let's really take a few moments here to examine the the Holocaust? Or shall we say the part about the Holocaust that they don't like talking about? Let's deal with it. We're going to get into it right now. I see you, VA, but I ain't done yet. Wait till you hear the end of it, and then we can talk. Are you ready? Let's deal with it. I see you, though. On this broadcast, we go in, we deal with things. We don't go around it. We don't go over it. We go through it. Let's deal with it. All right. Reparations, Holocaust, deal with it. They're not the same thing. Number one, the Holocaust that happened to the Jews is not the same thing as slavery for quote unquote indigenous people in the United States. All right. Holocaust is not slavery. It would have been different. It would be different if you said, okay, well, you know what? The Jews got reparations because, they were enslaved by Germany for 400 years. Those Jews served in Germany for 400 years as slaves, because of evil Hitler, and then Hitler's son, and then his grandson, and his great-grandson, then his great-great-grandson. Throughout the whole 400 years, the Hitler dynasty ruled the Israel and made them slaves. And then after that, apologized and gave them reparations. I can say, you know what? That is a perfect example, and maybe an example that we could do here in the U.S. Then you know what? It's game over. It's really nothing to discuss at that point. But Holocaust is not slavery. What happened to the Jews was totally different than what happened here. All right? Genocide is when you purposely set out to exterminate a group of people. All right? Doesn't matter if it's racially motivated, if it's politically motivated, doesn't matter. But when you perfectly set out to destroy, to kill, to remove from this earth a group of people, that's a Holocaust. That is not what happened to the indigenous people of the United States. No. They were forced into slavery and kept alive for the most part. I know you guys are going to start quoting Roots on me. Well, remember when they whipped Toby? Yeah, but he didn't kill Toby. Different. He was trying to break him like you do a wild Mustang. Totally different. All right. They didn't go into Africa and exterminate all the Africans. That was not what they were trying to do. Let's keep it 100. Slavery is not a form of genocide. What are you talking about? No, sir. Look at the definition of genocide. What is the definition of genocide? Don't say a form of genocide. To say form of genocide would mean, okay, so the goal, the end game was to destroy and remove all the black people. If that was the case, then you could say, yeah, that was a form. It just took a little bit longer, but yeah, they kill about a certain amount every year, whatever. They're not being kept. They're put in these concentration camps. Black people were not put into concentration camps. Indigenous people were not put into concentration camps. They were put on plantations and forced to work on those plantations. All right, totally different. They could have staged an uprising at any point, but instead all we got is really one little shining part in history with Nat Turner. That's it. And that was shut down almost instantaneously because more people didn't get on board. All right. He was basically a small dude with a little bit of people behind him, and that was it. Not enough. Not enough. Remember what Harriet Tubman said? She said she could have rescued more slaves if they would have only realized that they were slaves. All right? Yes. Thanks, Sling. Genocide, the deliberate act of extermination of a specific type of life form. Sort of like when you call the exterminator to your home because you have an ant infestation. What is the exterminator doing? Is he hauling all the ants away Does he come with a big giant glass ant farm and then scoop all the ants into the ant farm and force them into labor and bondage? No, he spreads chemicals to kill them instantly, or plants some type of poison for them to take back to the queen so that the queen can die. Okay? These are not all the same, and all of those individuals who experience that would take issue with you. The projects are not extermination camps. The last time I checked, a project did not have an oven in it where they threw people in on a daily basis. The last time I checked, a project in the inner city did not have mass graves. The last time I checked, there was no one walking up on you at any time of day or night, separating you from your family and forcing you to watch them have relations with your wife and your children in front of you. The last time I checked, there was no females being forcibly removed from their homes in the projects so that they could take their breast and suckle another person's baby, i.e. the master's baby. Okay? Last time I checked, the projects is not a slave plantation. The last time I checked, a project has no ovens in it. It is not a concentration camp where the powers that be that are enslaving you are walking in there and beating you and starving you to death, making it so that you can't eat. How dare you try to say that the projects or plantation is on the same level as a concentration camp? Talk about flawed logic. You're not even on the same universe. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? All right. Now, let's not get off topic. And you said, ask a Palestinian if he lives in one of those three. The answer would be no. See, you guys are you're going places that you ain't prepared to go. I'm trying to take it easy, but you want to go there, so we're gonna go there. I can ask a Palestinian because I have a brother who is. All right. And he owns an amazing amount of property in Palestine. So I already know what's going on in Palestine. I know that the country is almost 50-50 mixed between Christian and Muslim. Most people are unaware of that. And they like to spin it in the media that, oh, Israel is, doing this in Palestine because Palestine is Muslim and they want to destroy Israel. That is not true. Those are lies spun in agreement with Israel and the United States to justify them stealing Palestinian land. All right? Do you really want to go there? Okay? Let's get in here. So as I was saying, what happened to the indigenous people of the United States is not genocide. All right? I'll tell you, if you really want to go there, if you really want to take the gloves off, we can do that. We can knuckle up right now. Here we go. You ready? Here it is. What happened to the indigenous people of the United States is their own fault. There, I said it. Kanye West, you're not alone. It was a choice. Let's deal with it. All right? Here's what they don't tell you guys in public education. That's why you don't know. Even some of the so-called Black studies programs in university don't even go where we're going right now. Here's how they got into this situation. The indigenous people in the continent of Africa, like other nations throughout history, were beefing. They had beef in them streets. All right? You wasn't safe when you was walking through the jungle. There was beef. The neighboring tribes was beefing with each other. And like human history, whoever won in the battle was taken into slavery. But then they realized something, especially the ones that were always coming out on the winning end of these beefs. What happened is this: they realized that they could get broke off from this. They could make a business out of this. So here's what happened, and not necessarily in this order. You had the European man visit Africa. You had the Spanish visit Africa. You had the Dutch visit Africa and say, yo, this is what we trying to do. Yo, peep this. I see your game. I see how y'all running everything up in here. You know, that's all right. That's all good. But yo, have you ever thought about getting broke off? And the Chiefs at the time was like, what you mean? Holler at me. What you talking about? Look, man, let me show you something that you guys don't even have here. And you know what they showed them? Guns. You know what else they showed them? Rum. And you know what else they showed them? Nice, beautiful fabrics. And you know what happened? They instituted trade. That's right. The continent of Africa, by way of the chiefs that were winning the majority of the beasts between the neighboring clans, started trading their slaves that they've taken into captivity and given them to the Dutch and to the English and to the Spanish. Yeah. And that is how it all started. That is how Africans started leaving the continent of Africa. Their own people were selling them into slavery to everyone else in exchange for guns and liquor and fancy cloth. All right, that's how it started. And then guess what happened? Somebody else caught wind of what was going on with this trade and they wanted to get in on it. Those were your Arabs. The Arabs came in and said, yo, we can be middlemen between the Spanish, the English, and the Dutch. So they became the middlemen, and they're responsible for creating the infrastructure for the Atlantic slave trade. All right. The Arabs are the architects of the Atlantic slave trade. Once again, the Arabs are the architects of the Atlantic slave trade, working in unison with the African chiefs. Africa agreed to continue to give the English and the Spanish and the Dutch and the French all the slaves their little slave boats could carry in exchange for guns to fight their wars with each other, liquor, and cloth. Do your research, Manuka. All right? Pick up a book and read something. These are facts, historical facts, facts of historical record. If you travel to the Ivory Coast on the continent of Africa, they have made a museum out of some of those ports where the slaves will be held and boarded onto the ships. You can still go there and visit that to this day. All right? These are the facts, ladies and gentlemen. Deal with it. Now, isn't it ironic that Black people sold their own selves out for guns, liquor, and fancy cloth, and that is still going on today, straight up? In the inner city, what's going on? Gun violence, liquor. Everyone's talking about malt liquor and brown liquor, right? And fancy clothes. You got to have on the new Jordans. You got to have on the next fashion. They're into fashion, they're into guns, and they're into that liquor. That's why there's a liquor store on every corner in the hood and not in the suburbs. There is a liquor store on every corner in the hood. What do they drink in the hood? Brown liquor. What else they got in the hood? Everybody is glocked up. Guns. What else? Fancy clothes. Fashion. Okay? You opened the door. I kicked it open. You opened it and you opened it a little bit and I kicked it open. Now what? Okay? This is what it is. All right. Please deal with it. Hey, look. Don't look now. Who's setting up a straw man? You know exactly what I'm saying. I did not say that I am not stereotyping the hood to be black people. I never said that. I said what is happening in the hood. I did not mention the makeup of the hood. I didn't say that. Come on, stay on topic. Stay on topic, my man. Take this medicine. How Loaded Luck said, you're gonna get this work. You're gonna get this work today. Come on. Can you debunk anything I just said that is a matter of historical record? Other than this, this is all you got to come back with? Come on, Dex, stop stereotyping the hood does not equal black folk. I never said that. Let's deal with what I'm saying. You feel what I'm saying? Come on now. You opened the door. So don't ever disrespect people who were murdered in the Holocaust for the simple fact of being Jewish with slavery. It is not the same. All right? It is not the same. Was it horrific? Yes, especially for those that went through it. Absolutely. Was Jim Crow horrific? Yes, it was. Absolutely, for those that went through it. Absolutely. The lynchings, absolutely. Off the chain. Off the chain. All right? Just saying. We got to deal with it. History is hard. You're right. History is hard. But we need to deal with it because what do they say? Those that don't know their history are what? Destined to repeat it. All right? All right. No. You're not dealing with everything I just said. All right? No. That's not the same. That is not genocide, dude. Can someone please put up the definition of genocide again in the live chat? Scroll up, man. Look at the definition of genocide. It is still not the same. Yes, we know the Ku Klux Klan burnt black towns and lynched black people. And yes, we know about the millions of land stolen, but let's not get it twisted. See, again, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. All right, this is the dumbing down of America. This is the problem of public school and our universities that are subpar. All right. The issue is not black people because black people don't exist. The issue is not white people because white people don't exist. The last time I checked it on a map, there's no country called white. There's no country called black. Stop using pigmentation of skin and melanin, or the lack thereof, and grouping all people groups in that one category. There are dark-skinned people living on every continent of the planet, just as there are light-skinned people living on every continent of the planet. So we need to stop that. There's no such thing as black. All right? Let's deal with it. The United States of America was already populated with dozens of people groups when Columbus got here. If you really want to use pigmentation of skin, then yeah, there were black people already living in the United States when he got here. You already had Dutch people here, French people, Spanish people, Asian people, especially Chinese people. You had you had Incas and Mayans up in here. You had Mexican people up in here. You had other Central Latin people here. They were already here in the United States. Specifically, Texas and California was all an extension of Mexico. What you talking about? All right? I'm just saying, do your homework. They want to make you think that the United States was all quote unquote American Indians. That is not a proper name. Do you know that most of them people don't look the same from tribe to tribe? Don't call them Native Americans, because that's not what they were. They will tell you, I'm Powhatan, I'm Blackfoot, I'm this, I'm this. But that still doesn't tell you where they came from. People need to do their homework. I'm trying to tell you something. I'm trying to put you down on game. History has been rewritten by the victors because they don't want you to know the truth. Once you take the emotion out of the debate, out of the discussion, you can get to the truth. Instead, everyone is triggered by everything to the point where you can't even have a discussion. All right? Let's deal with it. Okay? Now, at the end of the day, you got to remember something too. Israel has had help. Hitler had help. Hitler was called the Man of the Year in Time magazine. Has his face on it. He was the Man of the Year in the United States. All right? He was groomed by the United States, helped by the United States. IBM played a big part in the genocide. They provided the computation devices to the Third Reich, which helped them to tattoo the prisoners in the concentration camps. They had the punch card system up and ready for Adolf Hitler. There were other quote unquote American companies and operations supplying Germany with everything it needed, even weaponry. Hitler was in no short supply of ingredients and weaponry and armaments that were supplied to him. He did not just rise up out of the ground and automatically he had all this stuff and he's a dictator. Okay? Do your research. He was propped up by what we call today the New World Order. He was their man, their boy. Please understand this, ladies and gentlemen. And then they betrayed him. That's what they did. They betrayed him. And then they broke up everything. They broke up the whole organization. And that was the fall. Why do you think the Operation Paperclip even came into being? Think about it. And then look at what they produced right after that. Immediately, within months, what did they have? An atomic bomb. What did the U.S. do with that atomic bomb? They bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That was German engineering, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Let's not get things twisted here. So I don't want to hear any more about comparing Black people, quote unquote, in America to what Israel went through. It's not the same. But I'm going to tell you what the origins of this are, and this is going to shock most of you. But again, it's not my fault that this knowledge has been kept from you. You need to do your homework. The reason why a lot of Black people feel kinship with Israel and what happened with Israel during the Holocaust, I'll tell you. Because a lot of so-called Black people in the United States have ancestry with the original Hebrew Israelites. That's why. A lot of people that were sent over here during the slave trade were of the Hebrew Israelite genealogy. Some of them were already here in the United States before the slave trade. And then you had some that were in northeast and part of the upper northwest of Africa. Because remember, after 70 AD, they were spread out. Where's the first place you're going to go where you can pretty much blend in. You go to a place where the people look just like you. That's North Africa. All right? Deal with it. And before you go talking that nonsense, let me remind you that the Queen of Sheba made a very large pilgrimage, a very long one, to see King Solomon because she heard of his wisdom. And then she brought back all of the things she learned back to her country in Africa. How do we know that this really took root? Because don't forget, Philip intercepted the Ethiopian eunuch. And when he intercepted him, the Ethiopian eunuch had pages of the book of the prophet Isaiah that he was trying to meditate and understand, which he did not. And Philip gave him the true interpretation of said prophecy, told him about the gospel. The Ethiopian eunuch became born again, took the message back to Ethiopia, which is in Africa. Africa has had the gospel for a long time. Let's not get that twisted. Facts. I had to deal with it. You made me do it. And technically speaking, before we finish this part so we can move on, Egypt and the Middle East is also Africa. It was only sectioned off by you know who and you know when. But to the people that are there, they tell you it is Africa. It is a part of Africa. It is the northernmost part of Africa. There's no such thing as the Middle East. It is all Africa. Egypt is a part of that too, period. All right? Do some research and you'll find out there is kinship in that African region, especially in the places y'all call the Middle East, including Egypt, because they're all family, they're all related. Now, before you get this twisted, don't forget that the Arab people are also half Egyptian. How do you say that? Because the progenitor of the Arab people is none other than Ishmael. Who was Ishmael's mama? Hagar, the Egyptian. Who was the daddy? Abraham. Abraham gave birth to two nations of people, the Hebrew Israelites and the Arabs, who are both beefing with each other till this day. That's why there will never be peace in the Middle East, because they both had the same daddy and different mamas. But technically speaking, they're all brothers. I wish I could have got that book published. I wrote a book way back in the day called The Return of Ishmael, explaining everything that's going on in the Middle East up until this point, but I never got it published. And I didn't self-publish it either, and the rest of it is history. That's why I speak to you the way I speak to you, because I did my homework. I spent the years, 10 years, researching, doing the research for that book. It took me 10 years. So I know what I'm talking about. All right, now we can move on. Can we move on now? I spent way too much time having to flush all of that out, because this is what we do on this program. We don't jive and shuck and jive and go around stuff. We deal with stuff. All right, we deal with it. We don't make excuses. We deal with it. And when you open that Pandora's box, I couldn't just be remiss and just walk away like that didn't happen. I had to deal with it. All right. Sometimes you have to lay down the smack down, because you know, and if I didn't care, I wouldn't say nothing. I would just pretend like I didn't hear it and just keep moving with an agenda. I don't have an agenda on this show, and I don't have a script. Everything is coming from the heart and from the dome. All right, and that's just how I do. The only time I use scripts is when I'm doing a documentary, but this is not a documentary. Yeah, Brandon. Yeah, I've been really trying to remember to do that. I have to do it always after the fact, because I never know what I'm going to talk about. Seriously, I don't really know where I'm going because I don't have a script and I don't really have an agenda. I go by wherever I'm led to go doing that broadcast. That's kind of how I do it. So it's hard to go back and label because I may miss some stuff that I covered because I don't know what I'm going to talk about. You know I got love for you, man. You know that. Come on. Everything we do here is all love, my brother or sister. I don't know if you're male or female, but you know what it is, man. It's all love. I'm glad you brought up good points though. And most people they don't like to deal with stuff, so they'll like kind of like, you know, talk around or whatever. So it's all good, man. That's what we do, man. You guys teach me a lot of stuff too. You bring a lot of things to my attention. I don't know everything. Um, I'm always learning, you know what I'm saying? But it's all good, man. Um, what do you have, my man? You mean period or with me? If it's something that you like for me to address, I will. But let me be honest with you, 100% disclosure. If it's something I don't know about, I will have to get back to you and look into it because I'm not going to pretend to know something I don't know or have an inkling of it where I can talk about it. So just FYI on that. So if you meant that as far as me or if you meant it in general, it's all good. All right. So peep this though. This is that reparations is what got us to where we are right now. The whole talk about reparations. Now, in saying all that I said, all right, I still didn't deal with am I for or against it? So that I had to give you the background though to explain, how we got here and how, because this is what people have been talking about. They've been trying to compare it to all these things that it's not comparable to. That's why I had to go there like I did. Okay. All right. Actually, I did. I didn't go into depth, but I did. I said that, yeah, that's historical record that happened, but that's still not a Holocaust. It's not a Holocaust. All right. Because if that's the case, then you could stretch, you could stretch and say that the riots is a Holocaust right now. If you're going to use that as an example, because entire areas are being totally destroyed right now. Entire communities are being destroyed from these riots. So if you want to use Rosewood and Wilmington as an example, then we got to use these riots as an example and say these riots are also a form of genocide because you're destroying entire neighborhoods. Rosewood and Wilmington were also neighborhoods. So if we're gonna be fair, we got to draw it to its logical conclusion and be fair about it. You know what I'm saying? Oh, okay. Hit me up, man. Hit me up. Hit me up if there's something you would like to address. Send me a private message in the trading room, and I'll get back to you, my man. And if you have already, I apologize if I missed it. Oh, okay. Thanks, my man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Good looking out. Good looking out. All right. Okay, but isn't that the same thing though? You said when you steal land and destroy businesses, it's not genocide. Uh, it's the same thing though. I mean, it's not genocide. What I'm trying to say. It's not genocide. Genocide is when you purposely set out to destroy and wipe off the face of the earth a group of people. That's genocide. There have been dozens of documented historical cases of genocide. And genocide usually follows totalitarian regimes. Once you disarm a nation of people, that's usually when the genocide follows. So just wanted to put that there. All right. So now as far as reparations, let's deal with it. Am I for? Am I against it? I'll be honest. I'm kind of on the fence a little bit. If they were to do it, my only issue is, all right. So say that's something that the government's going to do, right? I have to hark back to this. Where's the money coming from? The U.S. is broke. Where's the money coming from? And what is that going to do? What is that really going to prove? All you'll be doing is giving money to people who know nothing about economics or finance that will be self-destructive. Have you ever watched the lottery winner docu-series that they used to put on cable? Where they'd be like, where are they now? How they doing? And it was almost 100%. Almost. I would say probably 98% because it's like a 2% of the people that win these big lotteries. 5 years later, like 98% of them are broke again, regardless of the amount of money they win. There's only a small percentage, like 2% of the people, that still are wealthy after 5 years of winning the lottery. Okay. So my thing is, if they cut a check to every indigenous person right now, right? What amount would that be? What amount would be enough? All right, let's use whatever the reparations Israel got. Let's use that. Let's say all black people got the same as Israel got. Again, you're dealing with people who don't have an inkling of understanding about finance or economics. That is a recipe for disaster. The only thing that would do is boost consumer spending. So you would rescue a lot of businesses. Some of them will be mom and pop, but you would really rescue the economy a little bit, because everyone will go out and just buy a whole bunch of stuff. All right, so that's what that is. Okay. Yeah, but I'm not talking about them though. See, because you have to look at things the way a government would look at it, and you have to look at things how it's going to play out, because it depends on how you give it too. If you just cut everybody a check, that money's gone. You and I both know that. Yes, there are people who do understand economics and finance, but it's very few. Very few. Now, I'm going to give you some personal experience of why I say that. Now, if any of you are new to me, then you don't know what I'm about to say. But some of you who've been with me for a minute, you've heard this. When I first started my Wall Street thing, I was told by no uncertain means that it was not going to go well for me because most black people put their money under the mattress, so I wouldn't be able to raise any accounts and I wouldn't be successful. All right? That's what I was told. And I have to admit, they were right, because they were like, no quote unquote white person is going to want to do business with you. So as the story goes, we sent out our bios and everything, and I never got any callbacks, but my peers would, who were not black. Their phones rang off the hook. I didn't get one call back. When I took my face off of the resume and replaced it with a picture of the globe, my phone rang off the hook. So yeah, there was some truth to that. All right. But I only had, and let me count this real quick. 1, 2. I only had 2 black clients my entire Wall Street career. 2. That's it. And they were small accounts. That was it. Now, you could take that for what it is, but that was my experience. So no, understanding of finance and economics is not widely known. Period. Not just in the black community, but period. White does not equal automatic understanding of finance and economics, even with college degrees. Sorry. Nope. Most people know nothing about it. It's a very vast subject, dealing with all types of different disciplines. All right. So it would depend on how the reparations are given. Who is going to oversee it and how is it going to be done? Do they say we're going to set aside money for all the indigenous people to go to college and have free college, free degree on us? Do you do that? Or do you do a Donald Trump rescue package and send everybody out $1,200? See what I'm saying? How do you do it? And then, of course, more importantly, where does the money come from if the country is broke and the individual states that make up the country are broke? Where is the money coming from? You see what I'm saying? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Think about it. All right. I'm not familiar with that Reggie Middleton statement. I don't know what you're talking about or the context of that. I'll have to look into that. I don't know. I don't know what that's in regard to. But I'm just letting you know that it is about classism at the end of the day, not racism. America has always been about money. Those that have it and those that don't. All right. Why do you think there's a black boule? Because the black people with money look down on the black people with no money. They live in different communities. They move out of the hood, out of the ghetto, and do not go back to it, and do not do anything to help lift it up, by and large. All right? Just saying. We could do a whole show on the problems of the black community, and I've touched on that before. But these are facts. We just have to deal with what's going on. So the reparation thing, the reason I'm on the fence is because, first of all, where's the money coming from? Second of all, how is it going to be dispersed? And then third, who's going to oversee it? Anytime money is involved like this, there's always corruption. Sorry, it just is. And the whole reparations thing with the Jews, like I said, don't forget, Israel has never been alone. It's never operated independently of itself. It's always operated by way of the United States of America. All right? And it uses the United States' military might to do the things that it's doing over there right now. So this whole reparations thing was not an organic thing. It was forced upon the German people to do that. Sorry. It did not happen organically. And we all know the goings on of all of that. And to be quite honest with you, even that was a farce, because if the reparations were done correctly, then the United States of America and the Fortune 500 companies that helped Hitler would have had to pay the majority of those reparations. So even that wasn't done correctly. It wasn't really reparations. It was pillaging the German government for what happened. That's what that really was. Let's just call it what it is. Let's call a spade a spade. Those reparations that they got, that was a dog and pony show. That was not real. And it wasn't done correctly because the U.S. was not involved in paying any money. All right? The U.S. was responsible, just as much as responsible for the Holocaust as Adolf Hitler was. Germany and America were every much tied to the hip in that situation. First thing that they did, they took the scientists out of their Operation Paperclip. Second thing they did, the U.S. companies helped supply Hitler with what he needed. The next individuals on there was the Federal Reserve, i.e. Central Bank, which financed Hitler. Okay? I didn't see where the Central Bank paid them money or the Federal Reserve paid money. Okay? I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on. Again, the reparations to Israel was a joke. It's a joke. Dog and pony show. Israel and the U.S. flexing on Germany when the U.S. financed Hitler by way of the central banks and by way of Fortune 500 companies providing everything that they needed. So, and don't forget the U.S. called him Man of the Year, Time Magazine. All right. So, again, you see how history is nasty when you really look at it without it being revised and sanitized. The truth of the reparations, you can't, that's why I say it's not even a good comparison. Even if, let's just say for the sake of argument that Black people suffered the exact atrocities, the exact same atrocities as Israel did, right? The whole reparation thing still wouldn't be a good comparison because the reparations that Israel received was a joke. Again, it was military flexing, dog and pony show. Israel and the United States. The United States never paid Israel a dime of reparation when they should have, because they are the ones that helped Hitler along with the central banks. I'm just saying. Just saying. Just saying. All right. So enough of the reparations thing. That thing has problems in and of itself. And I don't think it's been really thought through very well. And with Bob Johnson talking about $14 trillion, again, the majority of that money is probably going to go to one person or a small group of people. Let's not get that twisted either. We live in a corrupt society. So, anything that happens is not because, this out of the goodness of their own heart. I'm just saying. Okay? Just saying. Now, perhaps before the collapse of the cities spreads to the rest of the country, before cold rage erupts into hot rage, before the financial and economic system completely fails, and before wars erupt and governments are overthrown, we need to have a conversation about divorce. Here's a proposal that will never be peaceably implemented, but it's important to understand why it won't be. All right? We got to get into the why. Given the irreconcilable ideology divisions within the US, why not split the country into 6 or 7 different countries that reflect those divisions? The East Coast and New England could go their own way. Same for the Middle Atlantic, the South, the Midwest, the Southwest, the Mountain States, and the Far West. Not that there aren't cultural and political differences within those regions, but there is more homogeny than within the U.S. as a whole. For the first 10 years, allow free immigration between the new countries. So everyone has the opportunity to migrate to the country for which they have the most affinity. Split up the nukes and other military assets so each country can deter attack. The countries will work out taxes, trade, and other economic arrangements as they see fit. Those may run the gamut from Marxist collectivism to laissez-faire. The animating spirits of these proposals is allowing people to go their own way and find their own place. In short, to live and let live. And that is why it has no chance of being accepted other than the laissez-faire land. None of the countries could allow live and let live. From mixed economy, welfare, statism, to democratic socialism, to Marxist totalitarianism. Every political system is built on subjugation and submission on a principle that boils down to your life is the state's. All right, at the end of the day, we still get back to statism. There are differences in degrees, but the essential principle is always the same. The state can take what it wants from you up to and including your life as it sends you off to a concentration camp, a gas chamber, or a pointless war. Governments all over the world just deprive their citizens of jobs, businesses, free movement, and even the right to breathe fresh air. Coming soon, mandatory vaccines, biometric identification, a health credentialing and credit system modeled on China's social credit system, and universal contact and location tracing. Anyone who has watched a baby, a kitten, a puppy, or any other animal being born has witnessed the miracle of new life. For humans, those precious moments open the gates to all the amazing potential of the human mind, spirit, and soul. The possibilities on this extraordinary journey called life are endless, to be met with anticipation and realized with joy. Such is a healthy human spirit. What is the animating spirit of coercion? Power, subjugation, and totalitarianism. No truism was ever truer. Misery loves company. Those who privately bear their suffering out of strength of spirit and quiet consideration for the rest of us deserve a salute. Miserable, malignant souls have no strength of spirit or consideration for others. They exercise power for power's sake. They're cancer feeding on submission and domination. A strong human spirit recoils in instinctive loathing and ritual exactions like wearing a mask or taking a knee. At least 90% of the masks worn are ineffective, and 100% adversely affect wearers, who are rebreathing their own respiratory waste and affirming mindless groupthink. But you can't enter into a store without a mask because they won't let you in. Period. Will stepped in front of his portrait and studied it. In Arabelle's experience, no one could look upon his own face in a mirror or see a representation of it. Indifferently, we like to look at himself. He was handsome. Why shouldn't he? Arabelle liked to look at herself. She liked what she saw, and she studied her face angles and proportions. There were those who didn't like looking at themselves, sometimes because their faces were unsightly or deformed, but usually because they saw deformity or ugliness in themselves that no one else saw. That was a quote from The Golden Pinnacle by Robert Gore, 2013. It's conjuncture, but not unfounded, that masks satisfy a psychic need. People are wearing masks when they are alone in their cars or outdoors, and they may not remove them even after the official all clear, if that ever comes. You don't hide what you are proud of, and the face is the window to the soul. No conjecture is required here. This is abject self-abasement. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and company are really doing a disservice to quote unquote indigenous people. Their politics draped pursuit of power is professed altruistic concern for the constituencies that provided them power. Remember, they worked for the people who got them in office. Now they are kneeling to the new politics, if you can call it that, which dispenses with the hypocritical concern, sees people not as individuals, but as members of groups who either aid or hinder the acquisition of power and are driven by malevolent plans to subjugate and enslave. It's a race to the bottom. This handover is like the brutal and vicious mafia ceding the drug businesses to the even more brutal and vicious Colombians. Such power always insists, at the point of a gun if necessary, on complete submission in thought, word, and deed. Those scheming for control of CHOP, a city, a state, the United States, or the entire world are overjoyed that millions submit to COVID-19 tyranny and that government officials, corporate executives, celebrities, and other important people genuflect the orchestrated violence. Does anyone think all this taking of knees would have happened if there had been peaceful protests but no riots? The lesson our would-be rulers, or more correctly, our would-be dictators, will take from this is that fear works on both the masses and the elite. The translation of laissez-faire is let go. Unfortunately, for those of us who want the freedom to live our lives as we see fit, malignant souls don't let go and won't allow us to live in freedom, pursuing our own happiness. Even a laissez-faire district the size of CHOP wouldn't receive the tolerance that collectivist CHOP has so far. The police or troops would clear it out as quickly as they could. The point of coronavirus totalitarianism and orchestrated riots is surrender, humiliation, and submission, not for the sake of health or justice, but for the sake of surrender, humiliation, and submission. The choice for each of us couldn't be clearer. Resist or submit. Which is it going to be? I want y'all to think about that, because this is important. All right? This is important. We can't just pretend that none of this stuff is happening, or it's only happening over there. It doesn't involve me. I don't have anything to worry about. I mind my business. I don't do anything to anybody. Blah, 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 blah. That's not going to work anymore. A line is being drawn in the sand. Will you resist, or will you submit? That is the question that only you can answer, because no one else can answer that for you. All right? So think about that for a minute. Think about that. You know, that's some food for thought. We're going to keep breaking this down. We're going to keep breaking this down. We are not done. We have a lot more to cover, but we'll have to do that next time on the pre-market PulseScan. If you have not already done so, you know you need to smash that like button, share the video with someone you never know who it may help or encourage. And you know our motto: bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And remember, PulseWaveTrading.com. Come on over and break bread with us. We're running an insane special of $9 a month to get started, learning how to trade these markets and extract money on a regular basis from these markets. And with that said, I'll see the rest of y'all in the trading room, and everyone else I'll see at the end of day report. Please have your requests ready when we go live this evening, so that I can have time to type them all in, because I'll do that right at the start. That way all the charts are already pulled up and we can just go in. All right. All right. So it's time to roll out. I will see you guys later. God bless. Hey, good looking out, man. Oh, and I love how those points you were making up too, and the arguments you raised. That was dope, my man. I appreciate you. All right. Much love to everybody. Peace out.